All right, well, everyone, that brings us to the formal close of all our speakers. And I'm just going to take about 3-4 minutes, do a quick kind of traverse across time, go back to yesterday morning and close up the journey that we've been on. And then I'm going to hand over to the President and Vice President of Meditation Australia to do a formal thank you and farewell to everyone. So very, very briefly, because you've all been sitting through and you've been doing your own kind of gathering up, and it is a personal journey, isn't it, when you are being reflected back to, like Giddy said yesterday, the mirror is reflecting back, and each one of us has had many mirrors reflected to us. And I guess there were these two windows, or these two refractions that we were looking through. One is our own personal practices, of course, and then there was also as a professional, how are we, supporting others who are coming to us to learn meditation, mindfulness, breath work, and the different facets, whether that's for personal practice. There were different comments about, well, the rest factor today and really deep recovery that happens in that eye rest as well as sleep. And the other idea that was resonant throughout really so much of what was said from yesterday through all today, that it's not about relaxation, it's about reconnecting to true self. And that this was something over and over again, whether that was through the eye rest or whether that Charlie was saying that, as was Giddy and Bree saying that. It's what Jamie's talking about. The Radiant Sutras, and this whole idea that you never stop and land anywhere, you keep exploring. There are no limits to the edges of who we are and what we can be and know, and this life is about that. We're embodied. And I think for me, and everyone will have their own kind of takeouts from today and yesterday. For me, it's sort of boiled down to this idea of separation is where all of the trauma, the sorrow, the depression, the everything that is not our true nature, this sense of separation is what is healed through this connection. And connection comes through these many different ways in which we can, for our own practice or with others, make that reconnection. And not just on a personal level, this idea that comes to us through Jamie and Auntie Georgina and Bree, that, it's mind, body, spirit, and earth. It's like the earth is the bigger sense of the body, and, we're in time and space. So I don't know, there's really an awful lot, the shaking up by Dr. Nida, and I forgot to mention that Karen, who, runs Meditation Australia, she was interviewing him there, and how science is really helping us to codify some of the things that we know experientially. And maybe the last thing that I would pull together out of this as teachers, or as facilitators, or people who come face to face with others who have an interest in this area or a need, is that it's really person-centric, to kind of let go of our attachment to a particular dogma or methodology and be with the other, really creating that safe environment that isn't imposing anything. Dr. Nida, special, we're special people, really not imposing something, but being available, as Elizabeth was talking about. There are different phases, different ages through our lives that require or invite different ways of entering into this world of mindfulness, meditation, breath work. I know that I will have missed some aspects. Sister Jenna was just like this divine light telling us to love what is, and her stories. And I think, you know, resonant with what Elizabeth was saying was where we began with Hannah McDougall, and this idea of like checking our language, get uncomfortable when we come across someone who is a little different, either physically, neurologically, diverse, and really just being okay to ask, how do I do this? How can I be more, you know, real and true here? What language works for you? And start to see everyone, all of us, we're just differently abled. I loved that. That was so glorious. Cody Waitman and Gareth Reeves. Cody, what amazing young man, you know, to understand that subtle world is actually having such a deep impact, even on injury recovery. Like 19 years of age, you have to think he's kind of brought something in from somewhere else to be that like focused and clear. And the vulnerability, I love that open vulnerability of Gareth to go, oh yeah, wow, I need to be learning. And then he had such a beauty in that sensitivity as well. I think we've been very blessed this weekend, and I would acknowledge the curation. There's a final point, which is Merv, the laughter. Every time he started to laugh, it was just contagious. And to understand that is such a healing way to move through life. So Bishop Philip Huggins started us off. Asha introduced him, and I'm now going to hand over to Asha and Lisa and say thank you to both of you for holding this extraordinary space of Meditation Australia for all of us, and to Karen Stone, I think you're probably going to thank as well, but I shall withdraw, say thank you very much, goodbye to everyone, see you next year or somewhere else, and handing over to you. Bye-bye.
Well, thank you, Caroline. Thank you so much. I guess that brings us to the conclusion of Meditation Australia's second national conference. And I'd agree with Caroline there. I mean, and you know, such a wonderful wrap of the weekend that you just gave us. And I agree with you wholeheartedly about the caliber of the sessions and the speakers. And I think it really stands as, you know, true testament to the bold strides that our industry is taking. And, you know, obviously the awesome human beings that kind of make up the meditation community, coming from all walks of life. And, you know, there's always an incredible amount of hard work that goes on behind the scenes to bring an event like this to life. And it's certainly my deepest gratitude. And I extend that to the whole board, especially to our conference organisers, Lisa, who's here with me, our Vice President, but also, you know, you mentioned Karen Stone there, and she is just tireless in the work that she does, our Executive Officer, Karen, and really from the bottom of my heart, you know, thank you, Karen. To Caroline, I mean, I'm sure everyone listening will agree that you've been an absolutely amazing MC for us all weekend, and I thank you for that. To our tech team, again, Lisa and Karen, who was ably supported by our board member, Dr. Calvinda Shields, for the weekend. And also to Auntie Georgina Nicholson, although she couldn't be with us due to ill health, and we wish her absolutely all the best. Our thanks to her as well. And I'm coming to you here from Bundjalung country, and my feet are firmly placed on the ground as I send my energy into the ground and recognise the original owners of the land here. Let me also thank the patrons of Meditation Australia, Pauline McKinnon and Dr. Craig Hassett. And finally, to all our presenters, thank you so much. And of course, to all of you, our members. This is a unique association, maybe, as far as we know, the only one of its kind in the whole world. And it's an ever-evolving co-creation that belongs to each and every one of us. So thank you. We began with Carl Jung, and I'd like to conclude with another of the great contemplatives in poet Rainer Maria Rilke. The following little quote comes from a letter that he wrote in 1921 to a young girl who asked him for a little life advice. And this is a little excerpt from that letter. And he writes, I am not one of those who neglect the body in order to make of it a sacrificial offering for the soul, since my soul would thoroughly dislike being served in such a fashion. All the soarings of my mind begin in my blood, and for which reason I proceed my work through a pure and simple way of life, so that I cannot be deceived over the true spiritual joy that consists in a concord with the whole of nature. And for me, that taps into so many of the words we heard from different speakers, even Jamie just before Caroline, obviously. I love that little quote. And so I wish you all the very best, and may we all find time in our practice to come home to the body, for it's the place where our true presence is found. So with that, I will pass over to Lisa for a few words of her own. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Esha. It's been such a deeply inspiring, expansive, informative conference, and I'd like to echo your thanks to everyone involved. It's just been so wonderful to see so many members attending live. And again, Caroline's hosting has been brilliant, and Karen Stone's preparation, incredible. Jamie just mentioned opening and reactivating conversations. And in the age of miracles, Marianne Williamson writes, there's a new conversation in the air, and all of us should contribute our voices to it as best we can. So in that spirit, I invite you to share the ideas that have inspired you with your colleagues, your students, your friends, and in your own communities, so that you can add your own voice to the growing conversation around meditation and embodiment in our culture. So what's been awakened in you? Are there areas you'd like to spend more time with, maybe explore further? And this might be the end of the conference this weekend, but it might just be the beginning of some new explorations and conversations for you. So thank you so much, everyone, for sharing this time with us this weekend. It's been incredible. I'm really looking forward to more in the future, and enjoy the rest of your weekend.